In 2009, a seemingly unassuming woman from a small Scottish village stepped onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent and left the world speechless. Dressed in a simple beige dress, with frizzy hair and a voice yet to be heard, Susan Boyle faced snickers from the audience and skeptical looks from the judges. But within moments of singing I Dreamed a Dream, she turned ridicule into rapture and became an international sensation overnight. Her performance has since garnered hundreds of millions of views and became one of the most iconic moments in reality TV history. Yet, behind that golden voice was a life full of heartbreak, loneliness, and unspoken pain. Susan Boyle's journey to fame was not one paved with glittering opportunities or smooth ascents. It was a path marred by bullying, misdiagnosis, health struggles, family loss, and isolation. While fame brought her applause, it also exposed her vulnerabilities to the world. This video delves deep into what really happened to Susan Boyle, the woman behind the voice. From her early childhood trauma to her misunderstood mental health conditions, from overwhelming fame to personal loss, from near silence to song once again, this is Susan Boyle's story, told in full. Susan Magdalene Boyle was born on April 1, 1961, in Blackburn, West Lothian, Scotland. The youngest of 9 children in a devout Roman Catholic family, Susan grew up in a working-class household. Her father, Patrick Boyle, was a miner and World War II veteran who also sang part-time at a local club. Her mother, Bridget, was a shorthand typist with dreams of her daughter achieving more than their modest surroundings could offer. From the very beginning, Susan's life was marked by misunderstanding and hardship. At birth, she was deprived of oxygen for a short period, which led to learning disabilities and developmental delays. Doctors told her parents she had been born with mild brain damage, a label that haunted Susan throughout her youth. As a result, she often found herself the target of bullying at school. Children would taunt her with cruel nicknames like Simple Susan, a nickname that devastated her self-esteem. Despite the social ostracism, Susan found refuge in music. Her mother was one of her strongest supporters, encouraging her daughter to sing in church and community events. Music was Susan's sanctuary, and even in a noisy home filled with siblings and chaos, she would often be found sitting quietly with a radio, learning songs by heart. But as she grew older, the dream of becoming a professional singer seemed to drift further from reach. Without formal education in music and facing cognitive difficulties, Susan was largely isolated. While her siblings moved away and began their own lives, Susan stayed behind, devoted to her elderly parents. By her early 40s, she had lost both her father and sister Kathleen. Her world became increasingly small, revolving around taking care of her mother. She didn't date, didn't travel, and didn't pursue a musical career, until Britain's Got Talent came into her life. For decades, Susan Boyle lived in near seclusion, caring for her aging mother in the same modest family home. The two shared an incredibly close bond. Bridget Boyle was Susan's emotional anchor, best friend, and biggest fan. It was Bridget who always believed that Susan had a special talent worth sharing with the world. Susan once recalled how her mother would urge her, "You've got to do something with your singing, Susan. Don't just sit around here forever." But Susan, shy and unsure of herself, resisted. The thought of being judged or laughed at was too much to bear, especially since she had endured a lifetime of ridicule. In 2007, her world shattered when her mother passed away at the age of 91. The loss was devastating and left Susan emotionally paralyzed. She didn't leave the house for days. She stopped singing. For a long time, she didn't feel she had anything left to offer the world. But in the midst of her grief, something stirred. Susan remembered her mother's words. That unrelenting encouragement to share her voice beyond the walls of their home echoed in her mind. After months of isolation, Susan made a decision that would forever alter her life. She would audition for Britain's Got Talent. She later admitted in interviews that she entered the show for Mum. It was her tribute, and her last shot at living the dream they had always shared together. When Susan Boyle walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in April 2009, she looked nothing like a typical rising star. Her frizzy hair, frumpy dress, and awkward demeanor drew sniggers from the audience. Even judges Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, and Piers Morgan looked visibly unimpressed. But the moment she began to sing I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables, everything changed. Her powerful, pitch-perfect voice stunned the judges and silenced the audience. Amanda Holden's eyes widened. Piers Morgan leaned in. Simon Cowell, known for his icy critiques, looked genuinely moved. By the end of the performance, she received a standing ovation. The performance went viral almost instantly. Within days, the video had millions of views online, and Susan Boyle had become a global phenomenon. Overnight, she was dubbed the woman who silenced Simon Cowell and the Cinderella of Britain's Got Talent. But with fame came an onslaught of media attention that Susan was ill-prepared for. The spotlight that brought her applause also triggered the internal battles she had fought all her life. Within weeks, Susan was spiraling. While Susan Boyle had achieved her dream of singing on a world stage, the price of fame came swiftly and cruelly. The overnight stardom was overwhelming. Tabloids followed her every move, reporters crowded her neighborhood, and paparazzi camped outside her home. For someone who had lived in near solitude, the attention was both terrifying and suffocating. Susan began showing signs of extreme stress. Her behavior became erratic, and she reportedly lashed out at hotel staff and fans. Behind the scenes at Britain's Got Talent, her mental health was deteriorating. In the final week of the show, she had a full-blown breakdown and was briefly hospitalized for exhaustion and emotional instability. She was admitted to the Priory, a private clinic in London known for treating mental health issues. Boyle's manager later confirmed that the sudden rise to fame had caused emotional overload, and she needed rest. While the media was quick to sensationalize her breakdown, what was less talked about was how deeply Susan had been struggling long before her audition. Her mental health had been fragile for decades, but in silence. Now, under the world's microscope, she could no longer hide. For most of her life, Susan Boyle believed she had suffered brain damage during birth. Teachers and even some family members treated her as someone with limited mental capacity. But it wasn't until her late 40s, after her rise to fame, that she received a proper diagnosis. In 2012, Susan underwent a full neurological assessment. The results were groundbreaking. She had Asperger's syndrome, a high-functioning form of autism. It was also revealed that her IQ was above average. The diagnosis came as both a shock and a relief. For years, Susan had struggled to understand why she felt so different, why social interactions overwhelmed her, and why loud, chaotic environments caused her to shut down. The autism diagnosis gave her a framework, a name for the things she couldn't explain. "I felt very relieved and a bit more relaxed about myself," Susan told The Observer. "People will have a greater understanding of who I am and why I do the things I do." But even with clarity, the struggle continued. Navigating fame with autism posed enormous challenges. She would later explain how she sometimes needed hours alone in her hotel room just to recover from a single interview or performance. Public expectations rarely made room for neurodivergence, and Susan bore that burden silently. After Britain's Got Talent, Susan Boyle didn't win the show. She came in second to dance troupe diversity, but she won something far greater: global recognition. In the months that followed, Susan signed a record deal with Simon Cowell's label, Psycho Music, and began recording her debut album. When I Dreamed a Dream, released in November 2009, it shattered expectations. The album became the fastest-selling debut in UK chart history, selling over 411,000 copies in its first week in the UK alone. It topped charts in over 40 countries and went platinum multiple times. Susan had achieved what most lifelong musicians only dream of. But even as her success grew, Susan remained deeply conflicted. The spotlight brought applause, but also anxiety. Interviews overwhelmed her. Meet and greets left her exhausted. International travel felt more like a burden than a dream. Crowds, something she had once feared in school hallways, now surrounded her in every city she visited. She struggled to balance the demands of stardom with the peace she once had in Blackburn. As she juggled world tours, award shows and TV appearances, the reality set in. She was now famous, but still profoundly alone. Her older siblings, some of whom had distanced themselves during her early years, now came back into the picture, but trust was difficult. Susan didn't know who loved her for who she was and who loved her for what she had become. Despite the pain, she pressed on. Music was still her refuge, and she poured herself into her work. Susan Boyle's family played a central role in her life, for better or worse. Born the youngest of 9, she often felt like an outsider, even within her own family. The early years of misunderstanding and bullying weren't limited to classmates. According to Susan, even some of her siblings underestimated her capabilities. Her relationship with her brother Jerry Boyle was particularly strained. In 2013, Jerry told the press that Susan had become distant and cut ties with family members after finding fame. He claimed she had changed, and that he feared for her emotional well-being. Susan, for her part, was deeply hurt by his public statements. Their relationship deteriorated until Susan was hospitalized again following a second emotional breakdown. Jerry later revealed that she had called him from the hospital, weeping, saying she had nobody else to turn to. Reconciliation followed, but the trust between them was never the same. More tragically, Susan suffered the loss of several family members after her rise to fame. Her sister Kathleen, who had been her emotional support, died from an asthma attack. Her brother Patrick also passed away not long after. These deaths reopened wounds that had never fully healed. Susan's heart, already heavy from years of ridicule and misdiagnosis, grew even heavier with grief. Despite having millions in her bank account and chart-topping success, Susan returned often to her family home in Blackburn, alone, where memories of her mother and siblings lingered in every room. One of the most poignant aspects of Susan Boyle's story is her enduring loneliness. Fame brought her admirers, fans, and followers, but romantic love remained elusive. Susan has openly admitted she had never been in a serious romantic relationship before Britain's Got Talent. Her devotion to her mother, her own insecurities, and a lack of social confidence all contributed to her isolation. In 2014, headlines briefly exploded when Susan was spotted with a doctor she had met while touring the US. She described him as a perfect gentleman and revealed they had dinner together. The press speculated about a potential romance, but Susan later clarified that it was brief and nothing serious came of it. Despite her massive fame, Susan still longed for something simple, a hand to hold, a companion to share her life with. She told The Guardian in 2016, "I want someone who understands me, who doesn't mind me being shy or needing space." But finding that kind of love as a global celebrity with autism proved challenging. Privacy became sacred, and trust, difficult to give. As of her 60s, Susan remains unmarried and childless, living in her childhood home, alone but not unloved. Her fans around the world adore her. But behind closed doors, the echoes of what might have been continue to haunt her. In 2022, Susan Boyle disappeared from public view for several months, sparking concern among fans and tabloids alike. She wasn't touring, wasn't releasing music, and made no public appearances. Rumors swirled about her health, until she confirmed the devastating truth. In June 2023, Susan revealed she had suffered a minor stroke in 2022. The news shocked fans around the world. She explained that the stroke had affected her speech and her ability to sing, something she feared she might never regain. "It was scary. For a while, I didn't know if I'd ever sing again," she said during her emotional return performance on Britain's Got Talent's finale in 2023. Her reappearance was nothing short of miraculous. When she sang "I Dreamed a Dream Once More," alongside the Les Miserables cast, the emotion in her voice revealed just how close she had come to losing everything again. Behind the scenes, Susan had worked tirelessly with speech therapists and vocal coaches to regain her voice. The stroke had left subtle impairments, but her determination never wavered. Her courage in the face of physical adversity added another layer to her already incredible story, a story of resilience, against all odds. With over 25 million albums sold worldwide, Susan Boyle is one of the most commercially successful contestants to ever emerge from Britain's Got Talent. Yet, in interviews, she has famously lived frugally, still residing in the same modest family home in Blackburn. In 2014, she made headlines for buying the neighboring house and converting it into a recording space, rather than relocating to a mansion. When asked why she hadn't upgraded her lifestyle, she replied, "Why would I? This is my home." But with fame came speculation about her wealth. Some tabloids alleged financial mismanagement. Others hinted at potential exploitation by management. These rumors intensified after Susan was briefly placed under a conservatorship, with her finances managed by advisors due to her mental health vulnerabilities. However, investigations found no signs of wrongdoing. Susan herself has stated that she has more than enough to live comfortably, and that she remains cautious with her money. Her net worth is estimated at over £30 million, yet she shops at local supermarkets, travels in economy class, and prefers simple meals. She contributes regularly to charitable causes and funds local projects quietly. Susan Boyle may be a millionaire, but she remains a woman of humble roots, untempted by the glitz of celebrity culture. By the mid-2010s, as the world moved on to newer celebrities and rising stars, Susan Boyle began to intentionally step back from the public spotlight. Though she still released albums, including A Wonderful World, 2016 and 10, 2019, celebrating a decade since her debut, the buzz had lessened, and Susan welcomed the quiet. For someone who had always lived in relative solitude, the explosive fame of 2009 to 2013 had been both a dream and a nightmare. While it validated her talent, it also brought a kind of exposure she was never equipped to handle: flashing cameras, tabloid scrutiny, and the constant hum of judgment. Gradually, Susan withdrew. She started turning down most interviews. Red carpet appearances became rare. She declined international tours and focused only on studio work or selective performances in the UK. Her publicist at the time noted, "Susan is doing things at her pace now. No pressure, no circus." Behind closed doors, she resumed a life similar to the one she had before fame, only this time with financial security and global recognition. She would take morning walks through Blackburn, shop for groceries at Tesco, and sing quietly in her living room. This reclusive period wasn't one of sadness or failure, it was a conscious decision to preserve her health and sanity. Fame, she had learned, was no substitute for peace of mind. As Susan Boyle entered her 60s, her life became a blend of routine and reflection. While most celebrities of her stature live in luxury estates, Susan chose to remain in the modest ex-council house where she was born. The same home where she once cared for her mother. The same house where her dreams began. Inside, the walls are decorated with awards and framed photos, platinum discs, international honors, snapshots from her days on stage. But the house remains humble. She cooks her own meals, does her own laundry, and reads quietly by the fire. Her daily schedule is surprisingly ordinary. She wakes early, reads the newspaper, and takes a short walk. In the afternoon, she practices piano, works on music, or chats with a small circle of trusted friends. Once a week, she visits her hairdresser. On Sundays, she attends church. Susan has no entourage. No assistant. No driver. Just herself, her memories, and her voice. Though she's been known to travel occasionally for recording or a rare concert, Susan's heart belongs to Blackburn, not Hollywood or London. In June 2023, after a year of silence following her stroke, Susan Boyle shocked the world by returning to the very stage where her journey began, Britain's Got Talent. The performance was unannounced. When she stepped onto the stage, the audience erupted in gasps and applause. She performed a stirring version of I Dreamed a Dream, her signature anthem, alongside the West End cast of Les Miserables. What made the moment even more powerful was her confession afterward: "I had a stroke last year, and I thought I might never sing again." The emotional weight of the performance was palpable. Even Simon Cowell appeared visibly emotional, telling her, "Susan, you are a legend. And you've just shown the world what courage looks like." For millions watching around the world, it was more than just a comeback. It was a victory over adversity, a testament to resilience, and a moment that reminded everyone why they fell in love with Susan Boyle in the first place. The internet lit up. Hashtags like #SusanBoyleReturns and #NeverGiveUp trended globally. Though Susan Boyle has stepped away from constant media attention, her musical legacy remains monumental. Few artists have achieved what she did in such a short period of time. Her debut album remains one of the best-selling debut albums in history, and her voice is still considered one of the most unique and emotive in modern times. Critics have compared her to the greats, from Barbra Streisand to Judy Garland, not because of technical virtuosity, but because of the emotion and humanity she brings to every note. Over the years, Susan has covered songs by the Rolling Stones, Madonna, and Paul McCartney, all with her own signature style. She's performed for the Queen, duet with Elvis Presley, posthumously, and inspired stage musicals and documentaries. But perhaps her greatest impact is not in the charts, but in the people she's inspired, ordinary people with dreams, disabilities, or late-blooming talents who see in Susan Boyle a reflection of themselves. She showed the world that age, neurodivergence, and appearance are no barriers to greatness. After receiving her autism diagnosis in 2012, Susan Boyle became an unintentional but powerful voice for autism awareness. Though she never set out to be an activist, her openness about her condition helped destigmatize autism, particularly among older adults and women, who are often misdiagnosed. She spoke candidly about the sensory overload she experiences in crowds, the difficulty she has with social interaction, and how structure and routine are vital to her well-being. "I used to think I was just odd," she once said in a BBC interview. "Now I know why I felt the way I did." She participated in fundraising efforts for autism charities and spoke to families across the UK, often writing letters of encouragement to parents whose children had just been diagnosed. Her message was always simple: "You are not broken. You're just different. And different is beautiful." Despite her fame, Susan Boyle is known for her humility and kindness. Numerous fans have shared heartwarming stories of brief encounters that left lasting impressions. One fan, a teenage girl with autism, wrote that Susan approached her after a concert and spoke gently for nearly 15 minutes, offering encouragement and advice. "She didn't rush. She didn't act like a celebrity. She treated me like a human being," the fan recalled. Others recall how Susan would sing quietly to children in hospitals, visit elderly care homes unannounced, or buy groceries for strangers in line behind her. In a world often cynical about celebrity behavior, Susan Boyle's kindness stands out. She never chased the paparazzi, never flaunted her wealth, and never forgot her roots. As Susan entered her 60s, rumors of her retirement began to circulate. Some tabloids speculated that her stroke had ended her career for good. Others claimed she was tired of the industry and simply wanted peace. Susan responded in her own subtle way: "I haven't retired, I've just slowed down. I'm still singing. Just not everywhere, all the time." While she no longer tours or records annually, she remains active in her own quiet way, writing, reflecting, and occasionally recording in her home studio. Fans continue to hope for a full-length comeback album, and she hasn't ruled it out. For Susan, the music never stopped, it just found a softer, more personal rhythm. From childhood, Catholic faith played a central role in Susan Boyle's life. She was raised attending Mass regularly and participated in her local church choir. As her world changed around her, that inner spiritual compass remained constant. In interviews, she often credits her survival, through bullying, fame, breakdowns, and strokes, to her faith. "God gave me a voice for a reason," she said. "Even when I felt like giving up, I always believed there was something greater guiding me." She continues to attend church every Sunday when in Blackburn, usually sitting quietly in the back row. Her parish priest once described her as a soul who has carried a heavy cross, but carries it with grace. Her faith didn't shield her from suffering, but it gave her the strength to endure it. Beyond the viral videos, best-selling albums, and award shows lies a woman who simply wanted to be heard. Susan Boyle never chased fame for its own sake, she chased a feeling, that of being accepted, understood, and loved. She is not defined by her autism, nor by her setbacks. She is not the spinster from Scotland the media first labeled her. She is an artist, a survivor, a daughter, a sister, a woman who dared to dream, and who made the world dream with her. Even in her silence, Susan remains powerful. She is a reminder that it's never too late to follow your dream. That courage comes in many forms, and that sometimes, the quietest voice can make the loudest impact. She was misunderstood at birth, bullied in youth, labeled unfairly for decades. She rose to global fame in her late 40s, collapsed under the pressure, rose again, faced grief, lived with illness, and then stood tall once more. She didn't just sing, she endured. She taught the world that vulnerability and strength can live in the same body. That talent can bloom late. That compassion still matters in a cold industry. Today, Susan Boyle lives quietly in her childhood home, content with who she is. Her story is not a tragedy, it is a testament to perseverance, to the power of music, and to the human spirit. She dreamed a dream, and the world listened. If Susan Boyle's story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications for more videos. Her journey reminds us all, it's never too late to chase your dream, no matter where you come from or what you've been through.